A hero is someone who destroys evil and establishes peace on the planet. A demon lord is one who rules the world of darkness through fear. Now the world has again found the owners of these two titles, the hero and the lord of demons. A white-haired boy was walking along a busy street of a big, beautiful city. Everything around sounded like a beehive. People were laughing, shouting, children were running somewhere. Everything around was wonderful. It seemed as if people were preparing for some kind of holiday, and so it was. Everyone, both humans and demons, who now lived together in peace and tranquility, talked about it. Ah, sure, soon it will be Memorial Day in honor of the end of the war. I think now is a great time. 18 years have already passed since the moment when humans and demons lived together, right? I was 5 years old then. An old man with horns on his head and with sharp facial features said, "Humans and demons, they are practically the same." My son was a soldier, but he is no more. He will not return home. A young girl of the human race spoke. The hero Halo is a legend. He sacrificed his life to end the war. It gives me goosebumps. Everyone was discussing the events that happened many, many years ago among the narrow streets, jammed to the very gates with people and demons of the city. There was only one unhappy and not joyful face walking on the street. A white-haired boy named Corleo. He was a hero. At the moment of the death of the previous owner of this title, a mark appeared on the hand of a 2-month-old baby, a mark that symbolized that this particular child was told to become a hero in the future and overcome evil. Orphan Corleo was taken into the care of Demon Lord Mamama. Corleo grew up in a Southern Army dormitory until he was 18 years old. He lived in peaceful times. He never had to fight with anyone, and what's more, he never even held a sword in his hands. Actually, this was the reason, his confusion. Corleo often helped people. Even now he helped an old but still nice-looking woman carry a bag across the road. He knew it was a good deed, but clearly not a heroic one. He still could not find an answer for himself, find an answer to his own question. What does it mean to be a hero? What? The mistress of demons, Mamama, asked in confusion, sitting at the table with Corleo. They had lunch. Let's not say many names, but Corleo liked to eat food from the dormitory all the time. It was what he liked most in the daily life of the dormitory. Corleo let out a pointed air from his chest trap and said, "Well," I said, "I guess I need to join the army." To which the demon lord, who was now looking more like an evil mother, immediately responded sharply, "Nonsense. You already 18 years old. You have to go to university. Neither you nor I have to serve in the army anymore." Mama put a spoonful of soup in her mouth and added, "More than that, these things are only gloom. The mistress of demons, the hero, it doesn't matter anymore. It's clear that the world has become much better than it was then." A silent moment hung over the dining table. Corleo looked at the hand lazily holding the spoon. Turning it with his palm down, he again saw the same mark, the mark of the hero. Listen still. What does it mean, to be a hero? Not taking his eyes off the strange pattern on his arm, Corleo continued, "Listen, and that Halo, he was strong, right? If I'm a hero too, how he's not worth it to me." But he didn't have time to finish. Mamama interrupted him in the middle of a word and started like an irritated swarm of bees. "Get that fool out of your head. Heroes and demon lords are relics of the past. Don't dwell on this." Popolopo's 58th hero. He ended the era of the demon lord that had lasted for more than 80 years, and established the era of humans. The 101st hero Bibip, alone without anyone's help, fought the advancing army of the enemy for a whole Sunday. Corleo's predecessor, Halo, ended a bloody 800-year history of enmity with demons, and established an era of coexistence. Passing by the statues of all the previous heroes, Corleo felt bad. It seemed to him that he was not at all worthy of his title, because at the age of 18, he still hasn't made any significant concession. And so he reached the place where his statue should stand, the statue of the hero Corleo. He said, "And what am I? I eat, study, sleep, live without any worries. Can I be considered a hero?" Looking somewhere at the ceiling, he would have continued to travel with his own thoughts, but he was interrupted. "Oh, good day, I'm sorry." The hero Corleo turned to the side, where a beautiful demoness was standing with her daughter. They looked so gentle, and it's nice that if it weren't for the horns that were visible from their heads, you could think that they are ordinary people. The demoness continued, "Can I take a picture with you? Please." While taking a photo, the girl asked her mother, "What should I say?" To which she received the answer, "Thank you, Corleo." That's right, his name was never remembered correctly. The one and only Mama, who raised him all his life, always and always called him correctly, as his name was Corleo. At this moment, the young hero thought that he does not want to be a hero, he wants to stop being one. Leaving the museum that housed all these hero statues, Corleo had no particular plan of where to go. However, before he could get down the stairs, several guards ran to meet him. One of them hissed with heavy breathing, "Phew, what a relief. You're here." Feeling that something was wrong, Corleo quickly tensed up and asked, "What happened?" Without explaining anything, the guard answered, still catching his breath, You must immediately go with us to the headquarters of the Southern Army. In the headquarters in front of Corleo stood a dark-haired guy, maybe older than him. He was wearing a cloak, dark clothes, armor and gloves. Everything about him gave off some kind of adventurer. All his clothes were covered with dirt and dust, and his skin was covered with small wounds and scratches. His name is Evan Allgreen, began one of the guards. After a short pause, without taking his eyes off the stranger, continued. He assures that he is a hero from another world. Corleo was in a stupor. He could not believe that there are heroes besides him, heroes from another world. Evan, seeing the mark on young Corleo's hand, added, I can't believe there are others too. Evan removed the glove from his right hand, turning the outer part to the audience. On his hand was visible the same mark as on Corleo's hand, which showed that he was indeed a hero. My name is Evan Allgreen. I'm a hero. Apparently, during the battle with the Demon Lord, I was hit by some kind of teleporting magic and I was transported to your world. Corleo, seeing the mark as unique as the one on his arm, thought, the mark of a hero, so he really is a real hero. Well, what the hell was the first thing that flew into the room? When Mama rushed in, indignant that Corleo was taken to the headquarters without her permission, she continued, What's going on here anyway? At that moment, a few centimeters from Mama's face, a sword stuck into the wall, and a few centimeters away was the hero Evan. Almost instantly, the demon mistress reacted and ran away from her attacker. While the guards pounced on him from all sides, trying to grab him, Evan shouted, I hardly believe in the peaceful coexistence of humans and demons, but for you to be friends with the Lord of Demons. In a moment he controlled himself, realizing that it's not worth it for him to do such things outside of his world. He threw the sword out of his hands, raising them above his head and said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. My body moved on instinct. However, this did not stop the guards. They still tried to twist the stranger. Seeing that his excuses didn't help, he continued, Very soon, in a few days, a demon lord from my world will arrive in this world. It's my fault, because I couldn't finish him off. The guards grabbed him and tried to break his arms, but to no avail. He's strong, and it's unlikely anyone but me can defeat him. Even added, still holding his hands up, showing that he was no threat. At the end, he yelled, Once I destroy him, do whatever you want with me if you like. But until this moment, can you let me go? Everyone in the room was shocked by such a turn of events. No one expected that something so terrible could loom over them. One of the guards shouted, A hero from another world? It's impossible. I'm sure you drew this mark on your arm yourself. Before Evan could say anything, another guard said, Wait a minute. Approaching Evan, the pot-bellied guardsman in glasses continued, When did you arrive in our world? Evan measured the shorter and round man with his eyes and said, If my memory serves me correctly, approximately 8 days ago. After that, the man got scared, his eyes became round, and notes of fear appeared in them. It turned out that he is the best graduate of the city university, and he knows a lot about the fundamental laws of this world. If there will be 2 heroes in the world, this may violate the laws of the universe, which will lead to catastrophic splits in the planet itself. No one knows what could have happened during the 8 days of a stranger's stay in this world. Everyone around was speechless after the guard's speech. He speaks convincingly, someone said. If you take my words about being a true hero, then my words about the arrival of the second demon lord are also true. Which means that after killing me, you will have to deal with the problem of the 2 lords yourself, said Evan passionately, in front of all the people and demons who were inside, who were waiting for the further development of events, after which Evan raised one hand up, put his foot forward and added, I will defeat the demon lord without delay. Kill, it will be better for everyone. At that moment, young Corleo looked at the boy who called himself a hero. He felt how in his heart, after so many years, something finally moved. The cold, damp walls of the prison were quiet. The only sound that made its way through this dungeon was the rustling of rats, dripping water, and someone's quiet, barely noticeable trampling, human trampling. It wasn't a tall, thin, white-haired boy who approached the cell where Evan was temporarily locked up. It was Corleo. Hey, Evan said, not even turning towards the boy, as if knowing that it was him. Evan asked, Are you the hero of this world? What's your name? After a few seconds, a pause, he received the answer to his question. The boy answered, Corleo, clearly, was the last thing the imprisoned hero muttered, before falling silent for a few seconds. A pause. Evan stared somewhere at the far wall, his cell, and asked, Listen, Corleo, it's a strange world in you. The white-haired hero did not understand what his colleague by calling meant. Evan, seeing the confused physiognomy of Corleo, explained, Everything here is so different from my world. It's unbelievable that people with demons, and a hero with a demon lord live in harmony. Evan turned his gaze to Corleo and added, And you don't have the magic of the label either? It's so strange. Corleo didn't understand what kind of tag magic he was talking about, so the question came out of his mouth. Tag magic? What are you talking about? After which Evan straightened his palm up. Instantly a hot flame flashed on his hand. which lit up all the walls of the dungeon. Yakov had not seen anything stronger for a long time than the light of the torches of the guards, who passed by all the cells during the evening examination. If you knew about the magic of the tag, you obviously wouldn't have locked me up in this prison without any trap. It's just logic. On Corleo's face, admiration appeared for the first time in his life. He saw something like this. All he could say was, "Wow." However, Evan quickly interrupted the boy's surprise. He asked in a calm voice, "Well, what do you need? I think you didn't come here just like that." Corleo doubted a little. After thinking everything over, he said, "No, rather I just wanted to talk to another hero. After all, such an opportunity does not often arise." "What then? Let's change the scenery." When Evan said this phrase, everything around changed in an instant. Instead of the moist, cracked walls of the dungeon, trees, leaves, grass and bushes covered everything around me, and instead of the foul air of the prison, the smell of grass, leaves, and needles hit my nose. Before he could understand how this was possible, Corleo was fascinated. Had they been instantly transported? Evan explained again, trying to gain the boy's trust. "The magic of the tag is capable of such a thing. Don't worry, I will return to my cell." Looking around, Evan continued, "I've never met any heroes but myself either." Before walking over to one of the many trees and looking around, "Let's talk, during sparring." With these words, Evan raised his hand to the tree, and used some magic that cut the tree into two perfectly equal wooden swords. They started a battle. It is not clear why, but Corleo, who had never held a sword in his hands in his life, was able to give a decent fight back to Evan, who had been a professional swordsman for a long time. "Did you learn how to wield a sword?" Evan asked the white-haired hero, to which he immediately received the answer, "What? Of course not. They told me that there is no need for this." Evan's face didn't change at all after Corleo's answer. He just said, "Okay, then impressive skills." Evan was already ready to fight more seriously in order to finish the battle as soon as possible. But suddenly Corleo looked down. His hands also fell there, as if in the ground. He asked, "Hero, what does it even mean to be a hero?" The alien hero also lowered his sword and began to study the boy carefully, while Corleo continued, "Once upon a time, the heroes of our world also fought with the demon lords. Peace was achieved only 18 years ago, but now I am nothing like that. Doing." Corleo clenched his sword so hard that the tree began to creak, as if screaming for help. Corleo continued, "I don't hate demons, I don't want to fight them, and I understand very well that peace, much better than war. But all the same, I envy you. I feel like a fake. I want to give up everything." A good minute passed before Evan was able to answer the question that the white-haired boy asked him. He looked somewhere between the trees, thought, and then said, "Here, I don't know the answer. You'll have to find it yourself. Don't look for the answer from others." "I still don't know the answer to these questions. Who is worthy to be a hero?" With these thoughts, Corleo walked around the city. He thought about this question long before the appearance of a hero from another world. He did not know where the truth was. While passing through one of the concrete alleys of the noisy city, he heard the phrase, "Hey, stop." Looking inside the alley, he saw two human guys trying to take something from a smaller demon guy. Gathering all his strength into a fist, he took a step that forever changed his attitude to the title of hero. "Well, what are you doing here?" Corleo asked with curious curiosity. The two zombies immediately reacted. "Huh? What?" Standing in the passage of the alley, Corleo continued, "To attack one person as a group is so low, and fights between humans and demons are no longer in fashion." One of the thugs wanted to attack the young hero, but his friend, realizing the gravity of the situation, stopped him with the words, "Good guy, no need." Corleo approached the demon, who was trying to satiate his oxygen-hungry chest. Lying on the ground, the demon said, "Thank you very much." To which the hero cut off, "We passed, go already." During the time while Corleo was helping the boy to get up from the ground, the two rascals had already managed to move a few meters away. They were walking further away. One of them continued to throw insults in the direction of Corleo, while the other tried to calm him down. After the last phrase in Corleo, a thug broke in, and he got into a fight. And the last phrase sounded like this, "Just so you know, I'm not running away, you damn fake." Mama was looking at Corleo with a murderous look on his cheek with a plaster, even though she was a head shorter and yes, not a tall hero. But when she looked like that, no one could feel normal. "I heard you got into a fight last night." Corleo hastened to defend himself. "I didn't beat anyone, I just gave a stern reading." But Mama didn't want to listen to him. She broke down and started shouting, as if in a voice that wasn't her own, "What kind of idiot are you? You're showing yourself to be a hero, and what will you do if you get into trouble?" Corleo was shocked. For a moment his consciousness became clouded. He no longer heard what Mama was saying to him. He interrupted her and said, in a voice as dead and cold as ice, "But I am a hero. Otherwise, where did this mark on my arm come from?" After the first sentence, Mama realized the fatal mistake she had made. But Corleo continued, "You keep saying it's stupid or nonsense, and you don't want to hear me. Have you ever told me what it means to be a hero?" I'm not myself anymore, I understand. Who am I? The young man's gaze clouded even more. Tears began to flow from his eyes, which were as empty as an abyss. He uttered the last phrase. If being born a hero leads to this, it would be better if I had never been born. At that moment, Corleo brought Mamam out of these terrible thoughts, lightly and gently pinching the former's hand. In a low and guilty voice, she said, Corleo, I'm sorry. I didn't take your words seriously. I didn't even think that you were so. It's confusing. But I have my own ideas, and they were all born out of love for you. Now I will always be ready to listen to you. Mama, I have never felt so disgusted with myself. She actually repented. No, say you don't want to be born. Corleo didn't want to listen to her. He instantly turned and ran away, somewhere, to the exit. He jerked away from Mamama and ran. The demon mistress had never felt so vulnerable, even when her life was taken by Ivan. Mamama just stood there and tried to realize what a big mistake she had been making all these years, staring at the floor. Running out of the room and leaving Mamama alone, Corleo realized how he had behaved. He said in a voice, and what am I doing? A pitiful sight. Breathing after a short run, he stopped in the corridor, the windows of which opened onto the courtyard. He said to himself, damn, what's wrong with me? Corleo leaned against the windows that opened onto a small courtyard, fenced by a small, however, a fence sufficient against uninvited guests. The young hero remembered the expression on the demon lord's face when the first began his speech. I think we should go and apologize, Corleo said. He was about to leave when he suddenly looked at the window behind which there was nothing, literally nothing, no sun, no moon, no trees, no sky. Everything around was enveloped in complete darkness. Everyone around saw it, every inhabitant of big city saw nothing outside the window, and those who were on could not see beyond their nose. Has the night come? Mamama asked, as if not realizing that it was clearly not her. Several guards burst into the room of the demon mistress. They shouted and rehearsed. Something is approaching us. Something huge is heading in our direction. Corleo blinked, and in the next frame he saw himself standing above the water, next to Evan. What is this? Asked Corleo in confusion and with a slight shock. The stranger who was looking somewhere where a strange loud hum was coming from. Without turning to the young hero, Evan spoke. I moved us here with the magic of the tag, and now we are hanging above the water. Corleo was indignant that Evan did not realize that he meant. Corleo corrected, that's not what I'm talking about. That's okay too, but that's beside the point. Corleo still couldn't get to his feet as Evan stood, still in some kind of trance. He said, why did you drag me with you? However, the stranger ignored his question as if he didn't want to answer him. Instead he said, coming. Demon Lord End. Evan said, staring dead into the huge, just an oversized ball of flesh, eyes, faces, claws, and fingers. It was so large that the smallest of the many eyes, which were the size of our heroes, looked no more than a birthmark in the overall picture of the monster's body. With a terrible timbre that consisted of many voices, releasing air from a dozen mouths at once, Demon Lord End roared, Eva-an, kill, Eva-an-a-a. The monster of Lord End noticed two microscopic figures in front of him, Evan and Corleo. Corleo was beside himself. He didn't even have time to get scared as a stream of blood flowed from his nose and mouth. He writhed in pain. Ignoring the wounded Corleo, Evan prepared for a decisive battle. Not taking his eyes off the large sphere of flesh and bones, he said, he's much smaller. He must have spent a lot of energy moving here. Then the events unfolded at lightning speed, not even giving the Demon Lord End a chance. Evan used the magic of the mark. He, in a split second, flew to one of his eyes, and a huge, bright flash came out of his hand. In a split second, the super-large demon began to shrink. As a result, it turned from a sphere into a cube with a radius of no more than 3 meters. After enduring a short pause, probably finally realizing that the fight with the master was almost at an end, Evan said in a cold voice to Corleo lying behind him, Corleo, I brought you here with only one purpose, after which he slowly turned to the young white-haired guy and continued, kill. The existence of many heroes and demon lords in one world, and the truth can split it in two. Thundered Evan, looking with a dead fishy look at Corleo, who was suffocating in his own blood, not understanding where it was coming from. Evan stood over Corleo and added, if I get rid of you and this monster, there will only be one demon lord and one hero left in the world, and I will be grounded in this world. Turning his gaze back to the powerless demon Lord End, Evan continued, my home world is now uninhabitable. Even if I kill the demon lord, all that awaits me is death. That's why I moved here with the mark magic. Therefore, let me ask you a question before I die. Evan did not stop, looking at Corleo, who was vomiting blood. It was unlikely that Corleo would be able to answer, and Evan understood this, but he calmly asked the question, what does it mean to be a hero? Stopped? As? What's going on here? Shouted the guardsmen running out of the headquarters building. Mama, running with them, one of the guardsmen ran up to her, struggling with shortness of breath, said to the mistress of the demons of this world. We ourselves are not sure, but the division of the squad. A search according to the given coordinates, a giant life form, Ivana, and Corleo. Hearing these words, Mamama fell to the ground, horror appeared in her eyes, and the mark of the demon lord on her hand lit up. Mistress Mamama! Not understanding, several guards shouted in fright, hurrying to help their leader. Mama noticed a glow on her left hand. She also did not understand what was happening. She felt that now this hand did not belong to her. Avon stood with his back to the owner of End and waited for Corleo's answer. Meanwhile, the white-haired hero, gathering his last strength into a fist, spoke. I don't know. Evan cut him off in mid-sentence. I'm asking you. To which he also received an answer. Seek the answers yourself. To your questions. Demon Lord End, who now looked more like a cube than a real demon lord, stirred. He roared again. Evan, recovered? Did he use the power of the mark of a demon from this world? Meanwhile, Corleo finally understood. The answer to who the hero is was right under his nose all the time. All he needed was to grasp it. The hero is strong and fights by their enemies. That's how heroes should be. Stop. So here is the answer. Then, what do I not understand? With these words, Corleo, finding the last strength that could lift him from his knees, ran forward at Evan. Evan thought that he wanted to attack first, but instead the white-haired hero pushed him aside, away from the Lord Enda, who was already attacking Evan with a dispersing blow. Heroes are always defending something. Evan had the strength to defend himself. Corleo's kindness, it was something that he rejected, as he did not think it was necessary. However, despite this, it turns out, all the time, I wanted to become a hero, said Corleo in his mind, already when the lower part of his body, flying to the other side from the upper one, the demon lord, cut him in two. Corleo lost consciousness. The last thing he saw before closing his eyes was Evan's face full of surprise, who did not understand how it was possible that someone would save him by sacrificing his own life. He fell asleep. He will never know how much time actually passed before he woke up. The first thing he saw after he opened his eyes was the sky, bright and bright, as if it had never been dark and dark, like an abyss. After that he saw Mama's face, all crying and scared to death. The white-haired guy immediately thought, old woman? At that moment, looking at Evan, who was also standing next to Corleo, and listening to some of Mama's screams, apparently from the shock that our hero suffered, he temporarily lost his hearing. When his hearing finally came back to him, he was able to squeeze out a question. And what? Demon Lord. Amidst the ringing sound in his ears, he was able to hear the answer of Evan, the same Evan who had wished him dead recently, defeated. Corleo passed out again. The next time he woke up, he saw his body whole and intact, and he didn't immediately know if he was alive or if it was just a dream or maybe a figment of his brain. But through closed eyelids, he heard Evan's voice, firm and as calm as the first time. He said, I give my life to heal you. After these words, Corleo's consciousness cleared. The next thing he heard were Evan's words of remorse. Listen, Corleo, I killed people. Friends, enemies. It didn't matter. I killed whoever I needed to. My world is cruel, and in a different way, there it was impossible to survive. It's not worth considering me a hero. After a short pause, during which Corleo heard the rustling of the wind on the grass, the stranger continued, A hero fights to protect. You are a hero not because of your strength. You are a hero not because of the battles you have fought. You become stronger to protect, and you fight to protect. Evan's eyes were filled with tears. The tone of his voice did not change, but the white-haired boy felt it, even with his eyes closed. Evan continued, I forgot it. I tried to forget it. While in your heart bravery burns, everyone will call you a hero. The last thing Corleo heard, before turning off again, were the words that he will forever engrave in his heart. Be proud of yourself, Corleo, because you are the truest hero. The demon mistress handed him a note. Corleo, taking it, asked, Okay, what is this? To which he immediately received the answer. Come to this address at 7 in the evening. I need to tell you something. 3 days had passed since the same incident. Corleo was still not fully recovered, but he felt 1,000 times better than when his body was in tatters. He looked at Mamama in disbelief and said, Why? And now you can't say. To which he received a rude, in the repertoire of the demon mistress, answer, girls don't like this kind of attitude. Corleo finally understood the feelings that were fighting in his soul. He was recognized as a hero. Finally, after so many years, he was told what he had long dreamed of hearing. More precisely, it seemed so to him, because then he was in an unconscious state. However, he still didn't feel like a hero. He was walking along a crowded street and lost his thoughts. Corleo did not understand why. However, he still felt that he was not a hero. I'm a hero, it's true. Can you think like that? Suddenly, someone called out to him. The voice seemed familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. This one, I'm sorry. Corleo slowly turned around, looking with his eyes for the one who called him. It turned out to be the same demon boy whom the white-haired hero not so long ago he saved from a bully. The boy looked at the demon, waiting for what he would do next. Meanwhile, the demon muttered, "Well, I just wanted to say," it felt like he was confessing his love, after which the demon, obviously gathering his strength, blurted out that which began. "Thank you for your help. I'm glad you're a hero." Not expecting this, Corleo stood in a stupor. He did not know how to react. Meanwhile, the young demon turned around, and waving his hand, walked on. Meanwhile, Corleo was running. Having run almost the entire town, he reached the place Mama had marked on the note she had given him that morning. "Why did you run here?" the owner asked the young hero, not expecting that the first one would arrive on time. Mama took Corleo somewhere in the direction of the graves. After passing several tombstones, they stood in front of one of the graves. This grave was well kept, cleaned, many colorful flowers grew on it. Corleo looked whose it was. "Here rests the great hero Halo 850 to 870. This is the grave of my predecessor." Corleo remembered that his predecessor had ended the 800-year war between humans and demons. Meanwhile, Mama began, "I have two things to tell you." After a short pause, she continued, audibly, "The protection of something inextricably linked to self-sacrifice. I was a weak demon lord. The hero could have easily taken my head off then. I would have been dead a long time ago." Mama did not stop, however. Halo proved to be a true pacifist. A stupidly good person, ready to sacrifice himself for the sake of protecting others. After all, he gave his life to end the war. After a short pause, the demon lord continued, "And what about you, Corleo? I can clearly see the features of Halo in you." After which, with a hint of some judgmental look, Mama looked in Corleo's direction. Corleo asked, "Why do you want to stop me so much?" Mama's face immediately softened. She cut off, "Don't make me say it out loud." Buka, the demon mistress, remembered how 18 years ago, the past hero, standing in front of her, said, "You see, I want the next hero to live in an era of peace, and if my life will be enough for this, then it's not a shame to pay such a price. I'm glad to be a hero." Tears appeared on the face of the demon mistress, who had taken care of Corleo for the last 18 years. "I don't want to. So that you suffer," Mama said, when small, salty drops were already running down her cheeks and falling to the ground. She continued, "You can be brave without overdoing it. Run when you need to, don't protect everyone in a row. There's nothing shameful about it." "What fly bit you?" asked Corleo with confusion. However, remembering how bitterly his guardian cried, seeing him, who had practically left this world, he simply said, "Oak, I got it." In the end, they decided to pray at this grave. Having performed the necessary ritual, Mama, who by then had come to her senses, said, "Hey, you made a mistake. To pray, you need to cross yourself 4 times and draw a circle twice." The white-haired hero, most of all, did not like when something was pointed out to him, which he had already done many times, so the answer was, "Take it away." After which, in a low voice, he added, "Waving here, after all these tears." Demon Mistress Mama heard his words, and along with embarrassment, she felt irritation. She hissed, "What did you say?" "Well, say it again, fool." Corleo didn't listen to her. He was deep in thought. Interrupting Mama, he said, "I too have to tell you something." She stopped her shouting at him, forgetting about the boy's scathing phrases, and began to listen carefully, studying Corleo's face. "Afternoon, the demon boy thanked me. It seemed to me all the time that I, having become a hero, do not bring any benefit." Enduring a short pause, he continued, "But today, for the first time, I began to think differently. I'm even glad to be a hero." Mama's eyes widened as she called out, listening to what Corleo would say next. Corleo, meanwhile, wanted to apologize for the time he ran away from his guardian when she was apologizing to him. "I shouldn't have said that I didn't want to be born. I'm sorry," the white-haired boy finally said. Mon's reaction was strange, but in fact she felt incredible relief and was very happy. She shouted, "What? You want to make me emotional again? I'm sorry." After which she calmed down and already in an even calm, but still motherly tone, said, "I had to tell you 2 things if you haven't forgotten. In general, the second is the most important." Having barely begun, "In the second I wanted to," but they could not continue. Mama, not understanding what it was terrified. Corleo felt the same way. The mistress of demons wanted to say what she needed, to convey the dying message of Evan, the very stranger of the hero. Before leaving the world of the living, he wanted to say that most likely, this world is waiting for more anomalies, and just in case, he transferred some of his powers to Corleo. At the same time, the hero Corleo and the mistress of demons Mama turned towards the grave of the past hero, on which, quietly watching, it is not clear from where, a creature appeared. A giantess, ugly, with a long neck and 1 giant eye, generally similar to a dog. This creature kept repeating, Heroi? In the next moment, this monster had already crouched down, opening its large, jagged mouth, and was flying at Corleo. not understanding how, however, Corleo was able to jump several meters back. "Corleo," Mamama shouted, but Corleo didn't react. The demon Lord End, who almost ended the life of the white-haired boy, was so deeply embedded in his memory that Corleo, with a nightmare and horror in his heart, looked at another creature that wanted to kill him. Mamama, the owner of demons, did not stop, she shouted, trying to reach Corleo. "Run. I don't know why, but you are his target." She managed to reach the hero. He got up and ran stumbling away. The creature, seeing that the hero was running away from her, turned towards the mistress, roaring something like, "The demon lord." The next thing that Corleo heard, fleeing in terror, was a scream, the scream of a person, the only being in this world who loved him. It was the scream of Mamama. Turning sharply, he saw Mamama, who was unconscious on the ground. One of her arms was missing. Corleo instantly switched. He forgot that he was running away just a second ago and wanted to survive. Now the only thing he wanted was revenge. Putting his hands forward, he shouted, "Come here, you slouch dog." When she was already falling unconscious after being attacked by an unknown monster, hit her head on a tombstone, the same tombstone of the past hero. Her whole face was covered with blood, blood that slowly flowed somewhere from under her hair. Time was short. At any moment the demon mistress could bleed to death. Corleo understood this. I have to fight this monster. Corleo understood this, but on the other hand, it was necessary to get Mamama to the hospital as soon as possible. The situation was deadlocked when suddenly, it is not clear from where, a demon man appeared. He landed from the sky and drove the creature back. In a calm voice and without taking his eyes from the monster, he said, "Situation?" Still under the impression and in shock, Corleo said, "What? What are you?" But the man interrupted him, now in a raised tone, almost shouting, "The situation." He was wearing the uniform of the Central Army. The hero did not understand who it was, but he understood that he was for them. Mommy's arm was torn off, bleeding profusely. This dog with a big eye appeared out of nowhere, so I'm not sure myself, but it seems like he needs me. Meanwhile, the monster, or as our heroes called it, the dog, began to regenerate. A man from the army, when he landed, managed to inflict a lightning strike on the dog, but now this wound disappeared, as if it had never been there. In his mind, the man analyzed, regeneration? You can't do it with one cut, so yes. Without taking his sharp gaze from the monster, the demon man said to Corleo, "Stay behind me, but be in his line of sight and distract." The dog was already ready to attack. Meanwhile, before the battle, a harsh-looking man said, "There is nothing more boring than the hard way, however, only a fool would choose to go the easy way." The battle began. Almost in a moment, with several lightning strikes, the man managed to deal with the monster, cutting it into many equal parts. The monster died instantly, perhaps without even feeling pain. Meanwhile, the man immediately got down to business. "Son, who are you?" In response, the white-haired boy muttered uncertainly, "Corleo, you mean Corleo?" "I'll take her to the hospital right now," responded the man, bandaged the arm of the wounded demon mistress. The man picked her up with a light, sharp but careful movement and before rushing off said, "I have a serious conversation with you. The hospital is 5 kilometers from here, follow me." Mama opened her eyes. The first thing she saw in front of her face was her savior, a man from the army. It was an old comrade of hers named Panelo, the former commander-in-chief of the Demon Lord's army, and the current general of the Hero and Demon Lord's Central Army. "Are you awake, miss? Long time no see, Mistress Mama. Good morning," said Panelo, waving his hand in different directions, as if checking if everything was okay with Mama's coordination. However, right now the Demon Lord was worried about only one thing, so she tried to get up and at the same time said, "Panella? What are you? Where's Corleo?" Her subject hurried to calm her down and said, "Try to move less. You've suffered a terrible injury. The painkiller is still working, but you have lost a lot of blood." "Got there faster than I thought," Panella said in a voice, after which the door to the ward opened and Corleo flew in. Demon Mistress Mama's subject immediately got down to business. He revealed that he wanted to take Corleo to the Central Army base to reinforce their ranks and provide information. In addition, he said that after the incident with Evan, similar anomalies began to appear everywhere, like the dog that Panella recently defeated. However, the main thing was waiting for them ahead. Panella said, "However, all this is not the main thing." At this moment, various witnesses told about several cases of appearance, possible demon lords and heroes from other worlds. Gathering air in his chest, he hastened to finish a long and difficult speech. "At the base, we already have one such hero locked up. No one knows what awaits us ahead. Corleo, will you have the courage? Help us in battle?" "Phew, I haven't been to Karna in 100 years, said the man, sitting on the bench next to Corleo, and continued, "I have a friend here who owns a bakery." Realizing that he could not dilute the situation in any way, Panella tried one last time. "I'll be honest, my back hurts terribly, so I ran today." Corleo was silent, then quietly leaned on his knees and stared at the floor. Demon Mistress Mama's subject's gaze suddenly became serious. Already in a quiet and low voice, he said, "I'm sorry. If I had arrived 10 seconds earlier, Mistress Mama, I would not have been left without a limb." Corleo looked up sharply, his gaze filled with pain and tears streaming down his cheeks. He whimpered, "More and more people are starting to call me a hero. I'm grateful to them. I always wanted to be one, so I truly am grateful. But seeing that thing again, my heart beat like crazy. I was afraid of the thought that I might die again. It's all because that I tried to escape at such a terrible moment." Panello rose sharply to his feet and began to tell the depressed Corleo his opinion. He spoke for a long time, talked about the fact that Corleo got into such a situation where he had to make a decision in a split second. But he also mentioned that the white-haired hero did not have enough strength to protect Mama, and in the end, Panella said, "Join us or not, it's up to you to decide. No one is forcing you." "Ah, exactly," remembered Panello before going about his business, and added, "Tomorrow at 7, I'm leaving for the headquarters from the Southern Sirona station." That's it. With those words, he left. Corleo went to see the demon mistress, who was already strong enough to walk. She told him what Evan had asked him to convey. That's it. He talked like a goat, stumbled like a goat, he dragged us into his hellhole like a goat, demanded that you become stronger. After these words, Mamama pretended to laugh and continued, "But I sent him somewhere far away and hit him with a good hand, although now the hand is gone. I received merits, ha. Aro received the answer. It's not funny." After waiting for a short pause, they continued talking. Mom, already with a serious and a little sad tone, asked, "Will you go there, to the central office?" But realizing that it would be like that, she raised her hand, which was still there, up, as if showing a stop sign, and said, "No need to answer," quietly. Mamama saw that Corleo wanted to continue the conversation and interrupted him. "No need to speak. Shut your mouth." Then the injured demon lord told another story. It turned out that she and the past hero Halo were in a romantic relationship. They founded the Central Army, but there were many who disagreed. But Halo sacrificed himself to prove how much he wanted peace between humans and demons. At the conclusion, Mamama, who was sitting on her bed, where she had been brought not long ago, almost dead, bleeding, said, "The hero is you. And as you know, 18 years have passed since then. How to say? After losing Halo, I felt empty, but spending time with you alone began to fill this abyss. And soon, I began to see Halo in you more and more often. Willingness to sacrifice oneself without a second thought. The so-called valiant heart of a hero." Mama tiredly looked at the window, behind which the branches of a tree swayed lightly, as if playing, "You know, I'm scared. I was afraid of the thought of another loss, and therefore, I wanted to keep you as far away from danger as possible. I tried to calm you down with peace and tranquility so that you wouldn't get hurt. Your will, dreams, aspirations, actions, decisions, life path, this I restrained all their manifestations. But you have already chosen your life path." For the first time in his life, Corleo knew the exact answer. He boldly and calmly looked into the eyes of his guardian, the only person he considered important to him. He said, I want to get stronger." He left Mama's room. He knew where he was going. He was going to Panlo. The demon mistress sat and looked out the window for a long time, then returned to the real world, looked around with both a smile and a tear. Grief said, "Naughty bastard. A hero is one who destroys evil and establishes peace on the planet. A demon lord is one who rules the world from darkness with the help of fear." Now the world has once again gained two holders of these titles. The era of the hero and demon lord has come to an end, and the world has once again begun to enter a new era. This is a sad era of change. It will later receive a new name. "Answer me, son, who are you?" asked Corleo, who approached, getting closer. Panella. Suddenly he received the answer. "I am a hero, sir." The Persian continent on which our heroes were consisted of the main layer of land, in the form of a cross, and various islands around it. Before peace began to flourish in the world, 18 years ago, humans lived in the west and demons in the east. For 800 years there was a hard war for the center of the continent. Corleo and Panello at the moment went to the central hermat from the south to meet the hero from another world. The train, a large beast made of metal, which with a rumble and a thump, moved quickly along the track, from time to time bursting with loud noises, and inside sat our hero and ward of the demon lord Panello. The magic of the tag. Panello asked curiously. Corleo answered, "Even seemed to say that he shared some of his powers with me. Ivan possessed a power called Mark Magic. She allowed him to soar, chop everything in a row, create fire." Panello raised his hand to his chin, scratching the thick bristles, muttered, "I've never heard of such a thing, so now you have it too." Corleo, frowning, looked at his hand with a mark on it. He said, "Good question, I don't know." But their conversation was interrupted. The conductor entered the carriage, offering tea. "Good day, do you want to eat?" Penello reacted with joy. He took some tea and asked what would happen to Corleo, to which the white-haired hero replied, "Oh, me too." After pausing for tea, Penello continued, "Well, Corleo, was this boy even strong?" Corleo was a little confused, not understanding where Penello was going, but he answered, probably, in general, very much so." "Who was stronger, me or him?" asked Penello in the same calm voice. Without waiting for an answer, he continued, "Unfortunately, our army is hardly a military force. We are more like the police, and let it sound old-fashioned, but I think that the man must be strong." Demon Mistress Mamama's mustachioed subject sipped some more tea from his mug and continued, "Halo was strong. It's rare to find a man of his caliber." He shifted his gaze to the young hero and continued, "A hero contained in the headquarters like friendly. But you've seen what happens when it's not like that." After these words, Corley remembered Evan's face, coldly full of pure nothingness. "You are now headed there, where the situation can develop in the same way." Penello finished his speech. For a second, doubt flashed in Corleo's eyes. However, this doubt quickly faded. He knew what he was doing and was ready. He said, "I want to become strong, not to beat someone. I need strength in order to protect people. I don't want to regret being weak anymore." At that moment, something strange happened. Corleo, just like that, it is not clear how, slowly rose in the air. "I've made up my mind. I'm going to plow like hell to achieve this goal," he said, and continued, already about a meter away from the train seat in the air. "There's no way I'm going off this path." At that moment, Penello was shocked. He saw how his interlocutor was hanging at a distance of 1.5 meters above the ground. Corleo himself noticed this. The train stopped for an unknown reason, and Corleo landed sharply on the floor. Shocked and frightened, he shouted, "What was that?" The train bell rang and all the carriages sounded. "Dear passengers, due to the lack of coal, the train was forced to make an emergency stop. The coal will be brought in about an hour. Sorry for the inconvenience." Everyone in the train groaned in annoyance. While Penello's face changed happily, he said, "Corleo, that's perfect. Let's go. If this strange technique is the magic of the label, then I want to understand it myself." Corleo still didn't understand what the subject of the demon lord was leading to. He asked with curiosity and disbelief in his eyes, "Okay, but how?" To which he received a sly smile. "With training. We have an hour," Penello said as he took off his jacket, obviously ready to fight. He added, "For the time being, try to get me to use your right hand. Attack like your life depends on it." However, as expected, it didn't produce any results. The demon lord's supporter manipulated Corleo's attacks and counterattacked as he pleased. After one more time flipping the white-haired hero from head to toe, he said, "Your attacks are too weak." Corleo looked at the mustachioed soldier with irritation and said, "It's clear I've never beaten anyone in my life." Rising to his feet, the boy added, "And you, aren't you too calm?" To which he received the answer, "I said, attack like your life depended on it, and use mark magic or whatever." "Yes, but I can't," said Corleo, lying on the ground. Penello looked at him with a raised eyebrow and said, "You're going to say that to the enemies too?" After which Penello began to ape Corleo's voice and said, "I'm not in shape, wait a little longer, okay?" Corleo straightened up. His face looked more serious than usual. He said, "Did you go to the headquarters to say goodbye to life?" However, nothing happened in Corleo. After 5 minutes he was again lying on the ground without strength, while the ward of the demon mistress said, "Well, they should have refueled the train already. It was a good attempt. To understand your level, time go. I hope you will become stronger." Corleo was filled with rage. He didn't want to accept the fact of defeat, so he bared his teeth and began to get angry, terribly angry. In the end, he hissed, "I'm leaving because my life depends on it." After these words, his hand on which the label was lit up. In his mind, Corleo said, "It reacts to my emotions." Penello, who saw this, instantly lit up in his eyes. He smiled mischievously, after which he said, "Ok, let's continue. For half a minute, attack." The white-haired boy realized that he ran quite fast from the cemetery to the hospital, where Mamama was lying wounded, and the dog, when the first punched him, the dog flew away for quite a long distance. Corleo was quickly approaching Penello. He was scrolling through his head. What was the task? To force him to use his right hand, so the hero decided he would attack the right flank. Nice. After assessing the situation, Penello said in his mind, and added, "I ran 20 meters, taking into account the speed gain. However, hitting the right hand is too obvious a tactic." After thinking about it for a split second, Penello dodged Corleo's blow, while the latter, due to great energy, flew towards the track. At the last moment, before finally breaking off the X platform and falling onto the tracks, Penello caught Corleo. He said, "I was going to parry all your punches, but for now, let's just go back to our seats." With these words, the man smiled softly, looking at Corleo. Already sitting inside the train carriage, Penello spoke, "Corleo, the hero we detained, was sent to the station. We met once, but they did not say a word to me about the magic of the tag, and this means that they can hide information from us. After that, Pinello leaned on his own hand, and thinking of something of his own, he continued, basically, the hero is showing favor to us, but still cautious. Try not to provoke. Corleo quickly responded, calmly said, yes, of course, a dear jerk is better than a demon mistress. I'll try to make friends with him. Panelo's eyes widened. He realized that he had forgotten to say one important fact. Ah, wait. I think I forgot to say, the hero is a girl. Corleo grew up in a kind of ball. Instead of harm, he was in military school, so he never had friends, let alone a romantic relationship. The only closest female person for him was his adoptive mother Mamam, the owner of demons. The new hero of the stranger was called Elysia. She was a girl of indescribable beauty, with big, deep eyes and curly, cute hair. Elysia, when she saw Corleo, said, oh, and indeed, another hero welcome. A short, sweet conversation followed, where Corleo was mostly silent, after which Elysia unexpectedly shook his hand. Corleo screamed in fear. He didn't know what to do, and the only thing he could do was scream. Elysia reacted in the same way. A terrible noise rumbled around the cry of two heroes who were literally scared of their own shadows. The evening was quite dark. There was not a single hint of the sun breaking through from anywhere in the sky, or a blue, cloud-covered sky. In some houses the lights were still burning, quiet but still audible children's laughter and adults' conversations came from outside the walls. Elysia ran so fast and hard that Corleo barely had time to catch up with her. Stop, stop, Corleo said in a heavy voice, as if panting. He ran after the frightened girl to explain why he screamed like that. He added, we left the old man there, Panelo. What are you doing? Elysia did not listen to him. She was too frightened to listen. Besides, she could hardly see anything, since her eyes were covered with a film of tears. Corleo shouted again, stop what you're saying, why are you running at all? To which he finally received an answer from a simultaneously frightened and irritated girl. Because you screamed like an animal and pounced on me. Corleo came up with a plan to get the frightened girl to calm down and stop. There was a traffic light ahead, and a crosswalk. He shouted, hey, it's red. Elysia didn't understand what he was leading to, but she stopped because she didn't understand. What's wrong? The white-haired hero continued. What's wrong with you? Anyone who crosses the road on a red color, well, will die. Now the foreign hero was even more frightened. She burst into tears again. Corleo didn't want her to cry, so at the end he added, well, if you don't calm down and talk to me, you'll probably die too. Elysia froze in the middle of the road where the red light was on. Annoyed and at the same time in a frightened voice, she said, I will talk. I will talk. Corleo spoke in a phone booth. He said roughly where they were and explained the situation. Elysia was waiting on a bench near the booth. Corleo came out and said, I called the headquarters on the phone. They will be there in half an hour. Elysia shook her head, after which she asked, what is a telephone? Corleo was not surprised by this question. He understood that this person came from a completely different world, a world where such things might not have happened. He calmly explained, as if afraid that he would scare the already frightened girl again. This is a device that allows to talk to people at a long distance, didn't you know? After which there was a pause. They did not know how to speak and where to start the conversation. In the end, Corleo began, I am Corleo. I am 18 years old. After all, I have already met a hero from another world. The war in this world has been over for 18 years therefore, and I am very weak, because I have never fought in my life, and you? Elysia looked uncertainly at Corleo, then said, I am Elysia Woolpool, 24 years old, after which she fell silent again. Corleo not knowing how to get her to speak again, so there was a pause again. However, not even a minute passed when Elysia spoke in an uncertain, quiet voice. I am also very weak, and all this time I was on the run with my mother. Because of my weakness, I had to run away, all these 24 years. After that, Elysia asked if she could tell Corleo something, to which the boy agreed without a second thought. Elysia began to say, you see, my mother died, and well, before she died, she told me to live. But my mother was the only person close to me. I don't need to live anymore, and now I still don't understand how I got there to another world. And in general, I would like to ask, what should I do now? Corleo didn't know what to answer, and besides, he didn't have to. Elysia lightly smacked herself on the cheeks to refresh herself, after which, already in a cheerful tone, she said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have behaved like that. You're 6 years younger than me. But Corleo ignored it. He said, I understand you. I have, like a mother too, and when they were hurt because of me, I thought that I was too weak, and I want to become stronger. It was already past 11 in the evening. Everything around was filled with impenetrable darkness. After a long pause in silence, the white-haired hero said, the guys from the headquarters will come soon. Let's wait for them at the entrance to the park. Elysia agreed. Let's decide what to do next along the way. That's what your mother would want, right? Elysia replied positively. Corleo remembered that he was supposed to ask about the tag magic, then said, by the way, why didn't you say anything about the tag magic? Well, as I understand you already know about her. Alizia said in a more and more cheerful tone, and added, "But I don't like to reveal all the cards to those whom I cannot fully trust." When the two heroes were about to leave the park, they felt an inexplicable force, terrible and deadly. They did not know what to expect. In one moment, they turned together to the pole that illuminated the dark streets of the park. On the pole hung a cocoon on which there was an eye. This eye was clearly alive, and it was watching them. After that, the cocoon opened. From inside it, a creature flew out. It looks like a dog that not so long ago left the hands of the demon mistress Mamam, but it was already something else. Now this creature looked more like a bat. The bat suddenly began to approach the heroes. When he was already at arm's length, he opened his huge, toothy mouth and began to attack our heroes. At that moment, Corleo, luckily, took Alizig in his arms, dodged, and started to run away. After running a dozen meters, this creature began to catch up with them. Corleo asked, "Alizia, can you run to the exit by yourself?" Alizia asked Corleo, "And what about you, Corleo?" "I'm going to show him where the crayfish hibernates," said Corleo. The tone of his voice was calm, and at the same time focused, and his eyes never looked so attentive, as if analyzing the space and the situation. "I hope one day you will be rewarded for all your efforts. Live, and in that case I hope one day," said Corleo, cautiously watching the monster flying towards them. He finished the sentence already with palpable fear in his voice. "You will find your reason to live on." Alizia at this moment, in Corleo's arms, realized that the white-haired boy's hands were shaking with fear, just as her mother's hands had been shaking before she died. The hero stranger got off Corleo's arms. She said, "Corleo, thank you," at which point the monster closed underground. Realizing that now was not the time to talk, Alizia said, "I'll lure him to the surface. The rest is on you." Before Corleo could do anything, he watched as Alizia, clenching her hand into a fist, struck the ground with it, after which the hard material of which the park's road was made split. The blow was so strong that Corleo asked himself, "And this is a weakling?" The monster roared out from under the ground, after which the curly-haired heroine shouted, "Corleo, come on." But the white-haired hero still did not know how to use the magic of the tag. "Alizia, I don't know how to use the magic of the tag. What should I do?" "The tag reacts to your emotions. Try to imagine a clear target." Corleo, he didn't have time to train, so he just said, "If you feel sorry at all, then lend me your strength, Evan." He succeeded. He flew 10 meters up, straight to the bat monster. The creature, seeing the speed with which the hero was approaching him, opened its mouth with the aim of eating him. "Ayu." With these words, Corleo flew up and caught hold of the creature's stomach, after which he threw it up with a jolt and set it right on the same pole where the creature had recently hung in the form of a cocoon. "Get a piece of him." With that, Corleo impaled the creature. It howled wildly, probably in unspeakable pain. It was the first time in Corleo's life that he had protected someone important to him. "I beat him, but now you need to land. You need to steam above the ground again." But he didn't succeed. He didn't know what to do and landed directly on Alizia, who specifically ran up to catch him. "Good thing I caught the queen. You used up all the stock of his tag. And what? Reserve?" Corleo had no idea that the tag had a reserve. He believed that it could be used almost endlessly, after which Corleo remembered that after training with Pinello he did not rest. Strength began to leave Corleo. He began to lose consciousness. The last drops of his consciousness left his head, after which he fell asleep. "You will become my reason to live?" said Alizia at the moment when Corleo was still not fully conscious. A blush appeared on her face. The white-haired hero, who still could not think normally, just said, "What? Of course." "Corleo, hey Corleo." These words reached the brain of the white-haired boy while he was trying to regain consciousness. When he opened his eyes, Alizia was standing in front of him in a beautiful guard's uniform. She had changed her clothes, and now she looked completely different than in armor. You're awake, Corleo. Super," she said and continued. "You slept all day." "Alizia, where am I?" asked the hero, to which he received the answer. "To the military hospital. The military took you away after that, and here. Somehow that's how we're here." Corleo's mind started to see images from last night. He remembered how he fought that thing with the huge eye. Then he remembered how he was able to use the magic of the tag. He said, "I was able to use magic. It's like that after I switched off." But before he could finish, Alizia interrupted him. "Uncle Panella said, as soon as you wake up, we'll hold a fundraiser for our future plans. As soon as his condition returns to normal, come to hall number 3. Alizia Panella mumbled, after which Alizia became a little quiet and said, "And I also told you something before you fell unconscious. Remember, are you doing?" To which she received the answer, "Ah, no, nothing at all. What did you say?" This made Alizia a little sad, but she did not pay attention to it. Our heroes went to the central headquarters of the army of the Demon Lord and the hero, conversation room number 3. When they arrived, Pinella was already there. He began, "And so, to begin with, let's clarify our data. If we structure the situation, Two problems arise before us. The first is the fact that heroes and demon lords from other worlds began to appear here. The scale of this and the number of uninvited guests remain unknown. And the second, monsters with huge eyes, creatures similar to dogs, bats, which after death turn into white sand and disperse in the wind. This life form somewhat reminds us of the former demon lord Enda. And also, there is a third problem for the two of you. Pausing to catch his breath, Penelo continued. He called someone into the hall. A long-haired boy with dark hair walked in. And with big horns, Penelo said, "His name is Escaba dat Mistrea. We took him a few hours ago. He is a demon lord from another world," said Penelo, and fell silent. Then Escaba himself continued the conversation. "As this man said, my name is Escaba. I found myself in the same conditions as Elysia." Suddenly he found himself in an unfamiliar place and realized that something was wrong. At this moment, Corleo's head was full of thoughts. Another guest besides Elysia and the demon lord. They all continued to appear. Now there are two of them, and they have one thing in common. They came from other worlds under the influence of external factors. Penelo said, explaining the situation, and continued, "After several discussions, we, the Central Army, accepted the possibility that someone is behind this situation, and they decided to find him. From now on, you three will become part of the Central Army. You will work on solving the case of demons and heroes as part of a team of 3 people. Be ready to go as soon as we have more data." After that, after waiting for a short pause, Penelo commanded, "Oak, disperse." Our heroes and a new friend went to the dormitory of the Central Army. Their new friend immediately reacted. "We will live and sleep here. This is so lucky. Your world looks better than mine, and it will surely be more developed." Their rooms looked quite normal, with a telephone hanging on the wall, sockets, beds, and a desk. Escaba continued, looking at the switched-on light. "This thing, electricity, is especially useful. You have light even at night." After that, he sharply shifted his gaze to our two heroes. Elysia immediately got scared and hid behind Corleo, who did not expect this and blushed sharply. Elysia said, "Sorry. I'm not that mean, honestly." She said this looking directly at the demon lord from another world. Escaba said, "You don't trust me, right?" He explained. "Okay, I understand. Elysia, your reaction is completely normal. Demon lords and heroes usually, not that they are friends. Well, think for yourself. There are only 2 heroes and 1 demon lord. Here I am not in my plate." Tried to make a joke of Escaba, after which he sharply lowered his gaze down to the floor and continued in a quiet, calm voice, "I want you to believe me. I'm not going to be at war with anyone. I just want to return to my world, to return home." Corleo, feeling the fate of compassion, said to a new acquaintance, "Hey, let's sit down, let's talk. We still don't know anything about each other." After a short conversation, they clarified all the misunderstandings clearly. So it all started with the hero Aven and the demon lord Enda. "You've had a hard time, Corleo, and your story with your mother Elysia," said the Lord of Demons, who recently arrived in this world. Corleo and Elysia realized that their new friend did not mention anything about the magic of the mark, which means that he still does not trust them. After that, Escaba began to tell his story. "As for me, in my world, people killed almost all the demons. I am one of the few who survived. To be honest, I'm still scared. But it's okay, I'm talking to you because I want you to believe me." After a short pause, Escaba continued, "I'm very depressed by the fact that while we're talking here, my friends are fighting. Somewhere out there, it hurts even more to understand that they are suffering, so I have to go back to my world. Everyone was waiting for me." They were watched by Penelo, approximately from the height of the 2nd floor. He was watching how the 3 heroes and demon lords were talking about different topics, when one of his officers came up to him and asked, "Sir, have you decided to give him freedom?" Penelo slowly turned his head in the direction of the voice that spoke to him and said, "Hey, it's you, Ben." Measuring each other's eyes, Penelo began. I myself had not yet fully understood his character. To which he received the answer, "True. Well, isn't it dangerous to let him stay so close to Corleo and Elysia? You won't get results without a little risk." After which, Penelo sharply looked again in the direction of the heroes and said, "Let's test him." Ben, who didn't have time to react to this without saying anything, saw a small bunch of pipes that Penelo had just cut to throw them and see what kind of power Escaba had, flying towards Elysia, Corleo, and their new friend. Elysia noticed this, but before she could do anything, a small piece of mysterious black matter flew near her head. It turned out to be Escaba's magic. With the help of his mark, he can add weight to his shadows and control them, Escaba said with a smile. "Never need to reveal all maps, right?"